So, as promised in lecture 1.1, I want to provide you more information on the group forums and the group discussion that's going to happen throughout this semester. This is an online class, and as a result, these group discussions that we're going to be having throughout the semester are so important to your learning and you achieving the student learning outcomes that we've set for this course. In a regular classroom, we can sit around and we can discuss topics and clarify topics and things like that, which we obviously can't do when we're online. But we still want you interacting with each other and learning from each other. And so a large portion of your grade in this class is going to be how well do you engage with your peers through group discussion on Canvas. This is going to be, for a lot of you, your first time doing a group discussion type of assessment through Canvas. So I want to outline for you how it works and then what my expectations are. I also want to just clarify that when I am evaluating your contributions to the group discussions, I'll be looking at the quality of your contributions and the quantity of your contributions. So there's expectations for both of those. How well is what you're writing actually contributing to the discussion, and how frequently are you contributing? So there's two ways for you actually to get into a discussion forum every week. The first one is when you go to your dashboard and go into the course, you will see on the left sidebar, you will see a button for discussions. So you could click on that discussion and then you will see all of the discussions that we have for the entire semester. And you can find the right discussion. That works particularly well if you want to go back to a discussion from a previous week and do something in there again or look something up or whatever. However, probably the easiest way to access your discussion for every week is just to go into your modules. Like I said in the previous lecture, Module 1 has everything you need to complete for that module, including the discussions that you need to participate in. So go into Module 1 and find Discussion 1.1 in this case, which is called Getting to Know Your Classmates. That is the discussion that you need to participate in for Module 1. And then Module 2, you will find Discussion 2.1, and that's basically how it works throughout the semester. So as far as the process of these group discussions, I will every Monday of the start of a new module. So pretty much like every other week is when a new module starts. So every other Monday, you will get new discussion questions, and they will obviously be related to that module and the topics that we're talking about. I use those questions as writing prompts for you. I post the questions, you are to reflect on them, and then write a response. I expect you to be present and active on the discussion board at least 3 times every week. That does not mean 3 times a module. So modules are 2 weeks long. I expect you to be present on that discussion board 3 times a week, which equates to 6 times in a module. And I like to see those discussions kind of spread out throughout the 14 days, of the module. So the way I kind of think about it is think about a week. Think about a week as having a beginning, a middle, and an end. Get on the discussion board at the beginning of the week, the middle of the week, and the end of the week. So your first post every week on your discussion board should be by Monday or Tuesday. And I will look to see if you have posted a response by Monday or Tuesday. Then you should plan on Wednesday, Thursday as being the middle of the week, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday as being at the end of the week. A lot of students, when they first start in this class, forget about the discussion. So what I would recommend you do is go into your calendars or whatever it is that you use, post some reminders so that you don't forget about the discussion board. You will lose points off of your discussion if you are engaging on the board on fewer than 3 separate days per week. And if you haven't engaged in the discussion by Tuesday of every week, you will also lose some points. So just to reiterate that again, you're expected to put in your initial response to whatever questions I've posed early. My preference is Monday, we start a new module, you look to see what the discussion questions are, you reflect on them and answer them by Monday. Obviously, though, things happen. Sometimes you can't get to it on a Monday. So Monday or Tuesday of the start of a new module is fine. You then come back to that discussion forum at least 5 other days throughout that module. Read the posts that your peers are making. Respond to your posts. So what makes good posts? Well, first of all, your initial post, when you're first responding to the questions that I posed to you, those should be 75 to 150 words. That's like 2 to 3 paragraphs at the most. If you don't meet a minimum word count of 75 words, I'm going to deduct points. If your post is longer than 150 words, I'm not going to deduct points. Just know that the shorter if you keep within that 75 to 150 range, the easier it is on your peers. Okay. When you respond to those initial posts, those initial questions, other things that I'll be looking at besides length, I'll be looking to see that you've actually answered the questions that I've asked you to answer. And that you've had some depth to it, that you haven't just responded with yes, no, or really basic responses. Then, throughout the rest of the module, as you're engaging in those discussion groups, I want to see that you've read the posts of your peers and you've reflected on what they've said and you have responded back to them in thoughtful, meaningful ways. So you haven't just said, oh, that's great, or I really like your post, or good idea, and then left it at that. No, you've followed it up. You've asked them some other questions. You've asked them to clarify. You've stated an agreement or a disagreement and then justified those things. Maybe you found a really interesting news article that you want to share and you post that. There's all sorts of things that can happen in those discussion forums. And the more time that you spend really reflecting, the better your grade is actually going to be in those discussions. As far as I'm concerned, I will obviously post those questions every week. I monitor the discussions. I usually look through them 3 times a week to make sure that people are on track, that everyone is following basic etiquette for discussion, that no one has gotten too far off track. I personally will not respond to or address every single post. I simply can't. There's too many of them. Unless you have directly asked me a question within the discussion forum, I usually don't chime in much. The first few weeks of discussion, I will provide you with a little bit more written feedback about how you're doing and why you got the grade that you got. And then after that, I will kind of just expect that you understand what the expectations are from there. This first week, or the first 2 weeks of the course, everybody in the class is going to be reading everybody's responses and responding to and reflecting on. So you're going to be together as a large class. But then starting with the second module, you're actually going to be in smaller groups. So if there ends up being 30 students in the class, I'll probably put you into 6 groups of 5 people, and that way you have a smaller, more intimate conversation happening throughout the module. Typically, I keep you in those smaller groups for a couple of modules, and then I switch it up. And you end up in a different group later on in the semester. So your groups will change and you'll get to know different people. And then the other thing I want to say is there's a reading. You may have read it already or you're planning on reading it after this lecture. And that kind of explains more again what these group discussions are all about. And it also includes a rubric. So it shows you how many points you'll get for your discussions and how many points you'll lose for not doing X, Y, or Z. Okay, so that's the group discussion. After this, you should be very comfortable of going into discussion 1.1, reading what my prompt was, and then responding to it and starting to respond to your peers.